Welcome back, everybody, to the Truth Channel. We are still reading the crucifixion and death of Jesus Christ. We are in the middle of the chapter, How was the man on the Shroud of Turin crucified? And we will continue that book by Kelli Ritter. And we are going to that chapter now, and let's continue. As the literature is not exhaustive with reference to the way the man on the shroud was crucified, it is not easy to draw significant information from only a photograph of a man lying on a linen sheet. This study tries to add some detail on this tissue based on both the image processing and high-resolution photos of the man on the Shroud of Turin and on the experimental test on his arms and legs of a human cadavers. With regard to this man on the shroud, a first hypothesis states that the left hand of the man on the Shroud of Turin was nailed twice at two different anatomical sites. The metacarpal joint medially to this pisiform between the lunate and pyramidal and the capitate uncinate bones, the stoic space, and the radiocarpal joint between the radio and lunate and scaphoid, also to the right hand, would have been nailed twice. A second hypothesis preferred by the authors states that the hands were nailed only once in the were nailed only once in the distots space with partial lesion of the ulnar nerve and flexion of the metacarpal joint of the thumbs. With regard to the man on the Shroud of Turin's feet, the imprint of the sole of the right foot leads to the conclusion that the man on the Shroud of Turin suffered a dislocation at the ankle just before the nailing. The entrance of the hole of the nail on the right foot is a few inches from the ankle and excludes a double nailing. The nail has been driven between the tarsal bones during crucifixion, a very serious and widespread causalgia due to total paralysis of the upper right limb, paradoxical causalgia, I can't say that word, a nailing of the left wrist with damage to the ulnar nerve, a similar nailing of the right wrist, and nailing to both feet, usually with one nail, that injured the plantaris medial nerves. The respiratory limitation was probably not significant was probably not sufficient to cause death by asphyxiation, although also considering the hypovolemia produced by the scourging and the many other tortures depictable on the Shroud of Turin. The principal cause of death can be attributed to myocardial infarction. Image processing of the man on the Shroud of Turin shows the man represented in it has undergone glenoidal dislocation of the humerus on the right side, lowering of the shoulder, and has a flattened hand and enophthalmus, conditions that have not been described before, despite several studies on the subject. These injuries indicate that the man suffered a violent, blunt trauma to the neck, chest, and shoulders, front and behind, causing neuromuscular damage and lesions of the entire brachial plexus. The posture of the left hand the left claw hand is indicative of an injury of the lower bronchial nerves, or the lower bronchial plexus, as in the crossing of the hands on the pubis, not above the pubis as it would normally be, and are related to traction of the limbs as a result of the nailing to the patibulum. The disappearance of the thumbprints is because of entrainment of the flexor pollicis longus tendons while the nails were driven through the wrist. The blunt chest trauma, which resulted from the body falling forward, was the direct cause of a lung contusion and hemothorax, confirmed by the postmortem leakage of cloths and serum from the chest caused by the stabbing spear, and was likely the cause of crucifixion or cardiac contusion. All the evidence is in favor of the hypothesis that the man on the Shroud of Turin is Jesus Christ. In the early 1980s, evidence was provided that rather than a dye, red orca, hemoglobin was indeed responsible for alleging the bloodstains of the Shroud of Turin. Such stains were shown to be an MNS positive individual of the AB group, and the halos surrounding the bloodstains were compatible with serum containing trace amounts of bilirubin, albumin, and immunoglobulins. However, being only based on indirect and circumstantial evidence, most of these data were challenged in the late 1990s, together with the evidence of the gene-coding B globulin contamination between a male and female DNA was documented on the Shroud of Turin. Although the presence of the male was more noticeable than a female DNA, these data were considered null and void. These days, to establish that blood indisputably belongs to an MNS positive individual of the AB group, and to exclude DNA contamination, highly specific techniques with monoclonal antibodies and molecular studies on nuclear and mitochondrial DNA are needed. Indeed, consistent with DNA contamination on the Shroud of Turin, sequences from multiple subjects of different ethnic origins have been recently detected on the human mitochondrial genome extracted from dust particles of the linen. Innovative concepts are likely to come up using modern research approaches to evaluate the issue of the blood stains on the Shroud of Turin, nor can we rule out the possibility of that religious implications of the new findings on the Shroud of Turin might be envisaged. Conceivably enough, the ongoing debate will be fierce and passionate, especially in the media. So we're going to stop there, and we'll catch you next time on the next episode, where we'll be just about finished with this book.